I had been with Alexander for 5 years. He said there was no spark left. Then he immediately went after some sweet young thing. This time I didn't make a scene. I packed my bags and left the city overnight. His good-for-nothing friends all started placing bets on how long it would take for me to come crawling back. Alexander curled his lips in a cold smirk. She'll be back crying and begging to get back together within 2 days. Yet 2 days passed, and then another 2, with no word from me. Alexander finally couldn't sit still any longer and, for the first time since we'd been together, took the initiative to call my number. "Serena, haven't you had enough of this tantrum?" But from the other end of the line came a man's soft chuckle. "Serena was exhausted yesterday, she's still asleep." Alexander's eyes were bloodshot as he ground out through clenched teeth, "Put Serena on the phone." Daniel lowered his head to plant a gentle kiss on me. "Can't do that. Like I said, she's still asleep." The 5th year with Alexander. I secretly bought a ring, brimming with joy as I planned to propose to him in front of all our friends. It was his birthday that day. I told him I might not make it due to prior commitments. Wanting to surprise him, I arrived early and hid inside the liquor cabinet in the private room. I never expected him to give me such a big surprise first. Hearing the sound of the door opening, I was just about to jump out when I caught his conversation with his friends. "Serena? I got tired of her ages ago." Alexander lit a cigarette, his expression languid. 5 years, if it were you, wouldn't you be bored?" The group burst into laughter. True, 5 years, no matter how beautiful someone is, the novelty wears off. But Serena really is stunning. Her figure is incredible too. Last time Alexander brought her to that banquet, all dressed up, which man there wasn't completely enchanted? "Seriously, Alexander, you were so into her before, can you really bring yourself to let her go now?" Alexander said coldly, "She's so dull, the spark is gone." "So, you wouldn't mind if I pursued Serena, right?" "Go ahead." Alexander exhaled a careless smoke ring. "As long as you two don't feel awkward about it." "You must be desperate, not even being picky? Taking someone Alexander's already tired of playing with?" Another round of unrestrained laughter followed. I spent the entire night hiding in the wine cabinet, listening to Alexander and his friends mercilessly mock me. That very night, I made up my mind completely. I was going to break up with him. Within days, the news spread like wildfire in our circle. Alexander was pursuing a freshman girl from the dance academy, youthful, beautiful, and full of vitality. His courtship was as extravagant as ever. Just like when he pursued me, he showered her with luxury goods and sports cars without hesitation, as if he wanted the whole world to know he was chasing someone. The young girl had never seen such grand gestures before and quickly gave in to his advances. At a gathering organized by friends, Alexander boldly brought her along to show her off. As soon as I walked through the door, the lively atmosphere instantly quieted down. Several girls who were usually close to me all looked at me with worried eyes. I smiled nonchalantly and said, "Why is everyone so quiet? What are you all looking at me for?" Alexander put his arm around the girl and sat down, only then turning his gaze to me. "Serena, since everyone's here today, there are some things I should make clear." Go ahead," I replied. "After all these years of breaking up and getting back together, it's really lost all meaning. The feelings have long since faded away." I clenched my fists tightly, my nails digging deep into my palms, yet I seemed to have lost all sense of pain. Lily is young and has such an innocent personality. I genuinely like her and don't want her to suffer any hardship. Alexander gently stroked the girl's hair. "I plan to give her a proper and legitimate status." I nodded slightly. "Yes, I understand. We can still be friends. If you ever run into trouble, just say the word. As long as it's within this city, I'll still help you with whatever you need." "Let's not." I smiled faintly and stood up. "Since we've decided to part ways, let's make a clean break of it. No need to give that girl any wrong ideas." Alexander raised an eyebrow in mild surprise before finally saying, "Fair enough. Then you guys have fun. I'll take off first." Should I arrange for a driver to take you home? Alexander said while patting Lily's head. No need, I'll just grab a cab back. As I stepped out of the room and gently closed the door, I overheard someone whispering, "How long do you think Serena will last this time?" I'd say maybe 2 days? She seems quite angry this time. I bet 5 days. Alexander glanced at the slightly ajar door, a faint, indifferent smile playing on his lips. No more than 3 days, she'll surely come running back in tears. It's always been like this all these years. I'm tired of seeing it. Who says otherwise? How could Serena ever leave him? Everyone knows she's head over heels in love with Alexander. I pulled a self-mocking smile at the corner of my mouth, tightened my grip on the handbag, and quickened my pace toward the elevator. Back at my place, I went straight to the corner of the walk-in closet and took out the wedding dress I bought for myself for the proposal. I had been looking forward to wearing it for over half a year, but now, I'll never have the chance. The dress was custom-made and couldn't be returned. Gritting my teeth, I grabbed a pair of scissors and, without hesitation, cut it into pieces. After all, keeping it would just remind me how foolish I was to think of proposing to Alexander. Before leaving for the last time, I threw the engagement ring I had bought right into the trash. I took very few things with me, only some personal items, and didn't plan to keep anything else. After a moment's thought, I left a note for Alexander, telling him he could do whatever he wanted with the house and everything in it, no need to ask me again. Then, I booked a flight to City B, departing in the early morning. My best friend married there the year before last, so it was the perfect time to go see her. My friend invited me to go shopping together and enjoy a relaxing afternoon tea. In the evening, she even organized a small gathering, with all our former classmates and old friends attending. Everyone was chatting animatedly, and after several rounds of drinks, the door suddenly swung open as someone else walked in. Several female classmates instantly lit up with excitement. "Daniel? You're truly the rarest of rare guests." "Yeah, busy man, what brings you here tonight? Finally gracing us with your presence?" "Just happened to be discussing some business next door. Heard old friends were gathering, so I came over to join the fun." Daniel's gaze flickered toward me briefly before shifting away. My best friend quietly nudged me. "Serena, is Daniel coming over for you?" I drunkenly glanced toward the man. He was even taller and more muscular than Alexander, wearing a long black overcoat layered over a matching formal business suit. With deep-set handsome features, an upright posture, and long powerful legs. I squinted at him for quite a while before finally looking away and shaking my head. "Unlikely, we haven't been in touch for years." My best friend didn't hesitate and directly called out to Daniel, "Daniel, could you please give Serena a ride after the party? We've all been drinking, and I really don't feel comfortable letting her take a taxi alone." I looked up at Daniel in slight bewilderment. Daniel's gaze traveled over the crowd and landed steadily on my face. After about 2 seconds, I saw him nod. "Okay. Thanks so much, Daniel." My best friend beamed as she sat down, then leaned close to whisper in my ear. "Serena, staying with one man for 7 years is such a waste. If Alexander can play the field, why can't you find someone new? Besides, a catch like Daniel would be a shame to miss. How can you be so sure there'll be something between us? The way he looks at you, so intense, like he's seeing right through you. Trust me, I've dated 20 guys, my experience trumps yours." Daniel drove me back to the hotel. When we arrived downstairs, I unbuckled my seatbelt and thanked him. "Thanks for driving me back tonight." Daniel turned to look at me. "No big deal." I pushed open the car door to get out when Alexander's cruel words from that day suddenly flashed through my mind. Somehow, as if possessed, the words just slipped out. "Want to come up for some coffee?" I regretted saying it the moment the words left my mouth. Daniel suddenly kissed me fiercely in the elevator. I was already tipsy from drinking, my mind hazy, and now with his passionate, overpowering kiss, I could barely breathe, almost suffocating. Gasping for air, my cheeks burning red, my legs so weak I could hardly stand, I clung desperately to his waist. "There's surveillance." Daniel glanced at the camera, swiftly turned, shifted angles, and kissed me deeply again. As I swiped open the door, he suddenly called out to me, "Serena, if you're having second thoughts now, I can still stop." Second thoughts about what? I tilted my head up to look at him, standing on tiptoes to kiss the corner of his mouth. Daniel laughed abruptly, reaching out to trace the spot I'd kissed with his thumb. "Then even if you regret it later, it'll be too late." For our first time, Daniel didn't even wait until we reached the bedroom. My back pressed against the wall, rubbing it raw until it ached. Unable to bear it any longer, I bit him with a sob in my voice. "Daniel, take it easy." His scorching palm rested against my back. Finally, he gasped breathlessly against my neck, "I'm sorry, Serena, but I just couldn't control myself." 5 minutes later, I finally fully grasped the meaning behind his words. Daniel carried me to the bed, and I buried my face in the pillow, laughing uncontrollably. "Daniel, how long has it been since you last touched a woman?" Daniel looked at me with a solemn expression. "It's been quite a while. I've been completely focused on work these years." I stared at him in surprise, my smile gradually fading. After a moment, tears suddenly welled up in my eyes. "I'm sorry, Daniel, I dirted you." "Serena, don't say such things." Perhaps seeing me cry, Daniel became flustered. He reached out in a panic to wipe my tears, but they kept flowing like a breached dam, impossible to stop. "I shouldn't have provoked you." "But you already did." Daniel leaned in, cupping my face in his hands, his gaze fixed on me with unwavering intensity. His tone carried undeniable seriousness. "Serena, since you provoked me, you'll have to see it through to the end." On the 5th day in City B. My good friend Sophie from back home suddenly sent me a message, "Serena, when are you coming back?" "Not planning to anytime soon. Everyone misses you so much. Charlie's birthday is in a few days, why don't you come back and hang out?" "Forget it. Just tell him I'll mail his gift." "Alright then. Take care of yourself." Inside the private room, Sophie handed her phone to Alexander. "Alexander, why don't you call Serena? She'll definitely listen to you." Alexander glared darkly at the lines of text on the screen, viciously stubbing out his cigarette before standing up abruptly. "Fine if she doesn't reply, better if she never replies again in her damn life." "Alexander, don't get so worked up. Serena must be feeling wronged." "Yeah, this time she even blocked your calls. Seems she's truly heartbroken." "You really went too far this time. I already broke up with Lily. What more does she want?" Alexander suddenly exploded in rage. "Listen up, nobody contacts her again." Alright, no contact then. Don't get so worked up, you just got hospitalized for alcohol-induced stomach bleeding a few days ago." Finally, he grabbed his coat and stormed out, slamming the door behind him. The biting wind hit his face as he reached the street, but Alexander still couldn't shake the fury burning in his chest. That Serena really had some nerve, 5 whole days without a single call or text. Was she seriously trying to play hardball with him? With a grim expression, Alexander dragged Serena's number into his block list. She'd better not come crawling back crying this time. He swore he wouldn't soften up like before. Daniel called just as I finished typing the last paragraph and clicked format. "I've been writing magazine columns since college and have gained some recognition. That's why I chose to become a full-time writer after graduation. Thanks to this writing talent, my income is quite decent. With flexible working hours, I can go wherever I want as long as I have my laptop. Because of this, I didn't have to stay in one place and wallow in sadness after the breakup. Serena, what do you want for dinner?" Daniel's voice came through clearly, instantly soothing the fatigue from an afternoon of busy work. "My head is about to explode from thinking, I'm exhausted, you decide. How about we go for hot pot? I found a place that's really amazing, you'll definitely like it." I've loved hot pot since my university days, but back then, Alexander had stomach issues and couldn't handle spicy food, so I rarely ate it after that. But I vaguely remember that Daniel's eating habits have always been on the lighter side. Daniel, you really don't have to go along with me like this, I can eat anything now. I suddenly had a craving myself. Sure, let's go for hot pot then. I'll come pick you up right now. Okay. Daniel took me to a hot pot restaurant in City B that had been around for ages. The place was old and cramped, but business was booming. Dressed in his crisp suit, Daniel looked utterly out of place in this lively yet somewhat noisy environment. I watched as he meticulously wiped my chair with a napkin, deftly rinsed the tableware with hot water, and carefully poured me a glass of juice. For a wealthy young man like him, performing these mundane tasks came with surprising ease and familiarity. Daniel, your ex-girlfriend really trained you well, I couldn't help teasing. Unlike me, who has been on and off with Alexander for so many years. Only during the initial days when he was pursuing me did I get to enjoy the treatment of being carefully cherished and held in the palm of his hand. Later, during the 2 years we lived together after graduating from university, I practically became his nanny. Because Alexander had a sensitive stomach, I worked hard to learn how to cook and make soups, wholeheartedly taking care of his daily life. But it wasn't until now that I suddenly realized. I loved him so much that I lost myself, even forgetting the simple principle of loving oneself first. How could I expect his love to remain unchanged? Daniel glanced up at me while helping me rinse the tripe. Where did you hear that I have an ex-girlfriend? I froze for a moment. Wasn't there always a girl following you around back in college? I heard you two were childhood sweethearts who grew up together. You mean Clara? Daniel chuckled lightly. Growing up together is true, but we never dated. I've only ever seen her as a little sister. Then you haven't been in a relationship all these years? Daniel unhurriedly folded up his shirt sleeves. I'd been on blind dates and spent some time getting to know people, but we parted ways when it didn't feel right. Oh. So there hasn't been anyone since then? I lowered my eyes, recalling his behavior that night, which seemed to lend some credibility to his words. Serena, I won't do that again next time. Daniel suddenly blurted out, leaving me puzzled. Won't what? He turned his face away and coughed lightly, perhaps because the hot pot steam was too strong. His ears were flushed crimson. You'll understand in a moment. Daniel picked up a cooked beef roll and placed it into my bowl. Eat up. It wasn't until he took me back to the hotel, and after I'd finished washing up, when he carried me from the bathroom to the bed, that I finally grasped the meaning of what he had said earlier. At that moment, I felt all the strength drain from my body. Daniel. I couldn't help but glare at him reproachfully, though the mistiness in my eyes only made me look more pitifully charming. My voice when calling his name carried an unconscious softness, hardly sounding like genuine anger. Daniel lowered his head and kissed me tenderly. Serena, how are you feeling? I shook my head, refusing to answer out of pique. He didn't get angry either, just kept kissing me gently, over and over again. Finally overwhelmed by his persistence, Daniel. My nails unconsciously dug into his lower back as my voice trembled with barely restrained sobs. Serena, tell me now, does it feel good? Daniel's eyes were equally red with restraint, the muscles in his arms taut, beads of sweat rolling down his forehead one after another. I was eventually reduced to soft sobs. It feels good, really good. As the last shred of consciousness faded, Daniel whispered ever so lightly in my ear, Serena, if it feels good, then never leave me, okay? On Charlie's birthday, the gift I bought in City B was also delivered to him through a friend. Alexander sat on the sofa smoking, the bottle of liquor in front of him already more than half empty. The gift for Charlie was chosen by Daniel and me together. It was a vintage tie clip from a high-end custom brand that he had been quite fond of. This tie clip is quite exquisite, Charlie said with an unnatural smile, sneaking a glance at Alexander's expression. Not daring to say more, he quickly had his girlfriend put it away. Bring it here, Alexander suddenly spoke up. Charlie was taken aback but didn't dare to question it, hurriedly handing the box over. Alexander stared at the tie clip. The brand's logo was understated and not easily noticeable, but Alexander fixed his gaze on it for quite a while. Put it away. He closed the box and pushed it aside. Charlie breathed a sigh of relief and quickly reached for it, but Alexander suddenly grabbed the empty liquor bottle in front of him and smashed it violently against the coffee table. Shards of glass flew everywhere, instantly leaving a long, bloody gash on the back of his hand. The private room erupted into chaos. What's going on? Why the sudden outburst, Alexander? That's a serious injury, the bleeding won't stop. We need to get you to the hospital right now. Alexander stood still, not moving a muscle, his face dark and terrifying, radiating a menacing aura. Serena wouldn't have access to things from this brand. His voice was extremely soft, yet carried an endless hoarseness and heaviness. Charlie quickly chimed in with an ingratiating smile, "What's the big deal? It might just be something a friend recommended to Serena. After all, it's nothing compared to your birthday. Serena has been racking her brains for months trying to figure out what to get you." "Exactly, Alexander. The weight you hold in her heart, the lot of us combined can't even compare. Who doesn't know how much Serena cares about you, how much she likes you?" Alexander responded with a cold laugh, "Care about me?" The originally noisy and chaotic crowd gradually quieted down for some reason. "Alexander, maybe I should call Serena and ask? Or let's deal with your wounds first." Charlie suddenly mustered the courage to pick up his phone and snapped a photo of Alexander's bloodied, wounded hand. Then he sent it to Serena. Alexander didn't stop him, perhaps Charlie moved too quickly for him to react. The private room instantly fell into complete silence. After about 10 seconds, Charlie's phone suddenly rang. "I knew Serena cared about you so much." "Alexander, look, Serena's calling," Charlie exclaimed excitedly, his voice booming. At that moment, everyone also noticed that the hostility originally written across Alexander's face seemed to soften slightly. "Alexander, are you going to answer?" Charlie extended the phone toward him, but Alexander averted his gaze and turned away without even looking. Charlie looked positively cheerful. "Let me take it, hee." As he spoke, he deliberately pressed the speakerphone button. The moment Serena's voice came through, Alexander's lips instantly pressed into a tight line. "Charlie, what's going on? Are you hurt?" "Oh no, not me, it's Alexander's hand that's injured. You wouldn't believe how bad it is, the blood just kept flowing, couldn't stop it at all." Charlie rattled on for quite a while, but the other end of the line fell into a prolonged silence. "Serena, are you listening? Maybe you should come back. Alexander refuses to go to the hospital, and continuous bleeding isn't a solution. Charlie." Serena's voice remained soft and melodious. Yeah, go ahead Serena, I'm listening." Charlie responded while making faces at Alexander. "Don't tell me about his affairs anymore." The smile on Charlie's face instantly froze. "Why, Serena? And, happy birthday, Charlie." "Hey, Serena. Don't hang up, Serena." But the dial tone rang clearly in everyone's ears. Charlie was completely stunned, holding his phone as if it were a bomb about to explode at any moment. He was filled with such deep regret that he wished he could slap himself. Why did he have to meddle in this mess? Now look what happened, stirring up all this trouble. The private room fell so silent you could hear a pin drop. Alexander calmly swept his gaze over the group, a faint smirk playing on his lips as he asked, "What?" Everyone's turned into mutes. The others remained as quiet as cicadas in winter, not daring to even breathe loudly. Alexander let out another cold laugh. "Why has everyone suddenly lost their tongues?" "Alexander, don't get worked up, you're bleeding more now." "Alexander, you know Serena's temperament better than anyone." Sylvia, who had been sitting quietly in the corner, suddenly broke the silence and spoke up, "Actually, I've wanted to say this for a while, your past actions have been truly heartbreaking. Serena is still a girl after all, and girls are fragile. Even if you no longer have feelings for her, you should part on good terms." "Who said anything about parting on good terms?" Alexander laughed mockingly, his voice icy. "She's been with me for 5 years, even a dog would have grown attached by now." Sylvia gave a faint smile. Have you ever considered how many 5-year spans a girl can have? Besides, she's a person, not a dog. What if Serena never comes back? Impossible. No one noticed the barely perceptible tremor in Alexander's trailing tone. What in this world is absolutely impossible? Once a heart is thoroughly wounded and chilled, how easy do you think it is to warm it up again? Alexander, don't do something you'll deeply regret. With those words, Sylvia didn't linger any longer. Picking up her bag, she rose and walked out. I had just hung up the phone when Daniel wrapped his arms around me from behind. He rested his chin on my shoulder, gently nuzzling against my neck, but remained silent. I couldn't help but laugh. What's wrong? Serena, will you get back together with him? I lowered my head and stayed quiet for a moment. If I said absolutely not, would you believe me? Daniel lowered his gaze, his tall nose bridge brushing against my cheek. I want to believe. Daniel, I have my pride and dignity too. Then do you still have feelings for him in your heart? After careful consideration, I replied, to say there's absolutely no feeling left wouldn't be realistic. After all, we were together for so many years. Daniel suddenly gave me a gentle bite. Stop talking, Serena. Let me finish. But to say this feeling is reluctance or unwillingness, that doesn't seem quite right either. I played with Daniel's hand. After breaking up with him, I wasn't particularly heartbroken or in pain. Maybe I'd already stopped loving him long ago. Perhaps from the moment he started being perfunctory about this relationship, I'd already prepared myself to walk away. I won't. I won't be insincere, won't two-time, won't make you cry or hurt you. Daniel held me tighter and tighter, until finally, he kissed me again. Serena, be with me. But I didn't return his kiss. In the end, I gently pushed him away. Daniel, I'm sorry. Why are you saying sorry? He looked down at me, his eyes slightly reddened. It's my own issue. I avoided his gaze. I don't want to get involved in relationships anymore. Then what have we been these past few months? Daniel grabbed my shoulders, his voice trembling. Serena, what did you take me for? I clenched my fists tightly and took a deep breath. Let's just say we each got what we needed. If you're willing, we can keep this arrangement going. If you meet someone you like, we can end at any time. What kind of arrangement? A tool to satisfy physical needs? You could see it that way. I didn't dare look up at him, afraid I might burst into tears. Daniel, I'm truly sorry. If this way of being together makes you uncomfortable, I'll leave right away. I promise I'll never bother you again. Daniel's eyes were bloodshot as he slowly released his grip, staggering backward a step. He seemed to be struggling to force a smile, but that smile was like shattered glass, utterly desolate. Serena, you know this isn't what I wanted. I'm sorry. He abruptly turned around, grabbed his coat, and headed for the door. I instinctively took a step forward to follow, then forcibly stopped myself. Daniel walked all the way to the entrance. Just as his hand gripped the doorknob, he suddenly turned back to look at me. He even managed to force a seemingly reassuring smile. Sorry, I just need some time alone. I nodded. All right, I won't disturb you. Daniel left, but it felt like all my strength had been drained away as I slumped limply onto the sofa. There was an indescribable bitterness in my heart, an unbearable ache. Yet with crystal clarity, I understood that I simply lacked the courage now. To love someone wholeheartedly without reservation like before, to embark on a new relationship. I was truly afraid it would end again in mutual weariness, in growing sick of each other's sight. Afraid that person's gaze toward me would gradually cool from its initial blazing intensity to indifference and detachment. I really don't want to repeat the same mistakes. It's just that I shouldn't have provoked Daniel so casually. If I had known from the beginning that he had feelings for me, I definitely wouldn't have let him take me back to the hotel that night. It was already 3 a.m. when Daniel drove back to the hotel where Serena was staying. He got out of the car but didn't head straight into the hotel. Instead, he leaned against the car and lit a cigarette. Countless windows in the hotel were still lit, and he couldn't tell which one belonged to Serena. But he knew she was here, in this city of B city, under the same sky as him. As soon as he entered the hotel, he could see her within 10 minutes. Just the thought of it filled him with an inexplicable joy and satisfaction. In fact, it didn't take long for him to figure it out. He easily let it go. Serena had just ended a deeply emotional relationship. It was only natural that she didn't want to get into another one. Her disappointment and resistance toward men, relationships, and even marriage were completely understandable. Perhaps he had been too impatient and shouldn't have pushed her so hard. If she felt more relaxed and comfortable keeping things the way they were for now, that was fine too. He didn't really mind not having a title. After all, what could be more painful than loving someone you can't have? If there was a moment, it should have been a year and a half ago, when he learned that Serena and Alexander had started living together. That was when he truly resolved to let go. That's why he tried blind dates and meeting new people, wanting to step out of the shadow of that relationship. But after trying, he found it utterly impossible and decisively gave up. Since then, no matter how much his family urged him, he never entertained such thoughts again. If Serena hadn't come to City B after the breakup, if she hadn't invited him upstairs that night, perhaps he would have remained alone for the rest of his life. Daniel stubbed out his cigarette, his gaze gradually regaining calmness, revealing determination. But Serena just had to come to City B, just had to speak up that night. She was destined to be mine. On the night before leaving City B, I arranged to have dinner with my best friend. "So how are things progressing with Daniel?" she eagerly asked as soon as she sat down. I cut her off. "I'd better not drag him down. I have no interest in dating right now, let alone marriage." "Serena, why punish yourself for someone else's mistakes? Besides, this isn't fair to Daniel either. They say the predecessors plant trees while successors enjoy the shade. That makes sense, but it's unreasonable for an ex's misdeeds to haunt the current partner. That Alexander was indeed no good, but Daniel is a decent man worth entrusting your life to. Why should you judge Daniel based on preconceptions because of Alexander? It's not that I'm biased against him, I just haven't gotten over that hurdle in my own heart yet." "You didn't just fail to get over that hurdle, you were deceived by that scumbag Alexander for 5 years, making you believe you didn't deserve true love and happiness." Hearing this, I froze. Could it really be true? Was it because of all the pain and turmoil from those past moments of uncertainty, the constant breaking up and making up? Because of an extreme lack of security within, I became overly suspicious, so much so that, subconsciously, I distrusted everyone and the entire world. Convinced I could never receive that kind of wholehearted love. But why shouldn't I be worthy of genuine love? Those who betray sincere hearts deserve punishment, while those who take love seriously will surely have a new door of hope opened for them by fate. "My dear, do you know how amazing you are?" My best friend hugged me tightly, gently rocking me. "So gorgeous with such a perfect figure, already supporting yourself financially in college while taking care of me too, beautiful, capable, and kind-hearted. If I were a man, I'd fight to the death to marry you. You deserve to be loved, Serena. You deserve to be cherished by the finest man. Not wasting time and emotions on someone like Alexander. Trust me, he'll definitely regret it. For the rest of his life, he'll never get over losing you. Now, call Daniel right away." I stared at my best friend, my eyes gradually growing warm and moist. "But Nina, tell me, could Daniel and I end up repeating the same mistakes?" "No." "Why are you so sure?" "Because I firmly believe that a man with strong self-control, who would rather go without than settle in matters of the heart, would never be foolish enough to lose the girl he loves once he has her." "You're not comparing him to that scoundrel Alexander, are you?" I hurriedly shook my head. Of course he wasn't Alexander. "So, just give him a call now, sweetie. You have no idea how happy he'll be." I could imagine how happy Daniel would be. But who would have thought that the group president, who took over the family business in his early 30s with outstanding achievements, would be as happy as an innocent child the moment he received my call? My best friend looked at me with a smile. "Serena, are you happy?" I nodded in response. "It seems. I really am happy." See? You're happy, Daniel is even happier, isn't this perfect? At this point, my best friend couldn't help but burst into laughter. Just thinking about how much Alexander is going to regret it in the future makes me absolutely thrilled. Not necessarily. Maybe he already has someone new by his side. I chuckled softly. Serena, let's not mention him again from now on. At this very moment, I was actually able to say these words so calmly. As if that person truly had nothing to do with me anymore. Daniel's car pulled up downstairs just as I was stepping out of the restaurant. He stood in the night breeze, arms outstretched toward me. I paused to look at him. I had to admit, he was genuinely handsome. Every inch of him hit all my aesthetic sweet spots. If men can flirt around and juggle multiple relationships before even breaking up, then seamlessly moving on isn't considered some major flaw. So naturally, there's nothing wrong with me starting a new romance after a breakup. I walked toward him, and he eagerly rushed to meet me with long strides. Amid the bustling crowd, Daniel and I seemed to be in a world of our own, holding each other tightly in an embrace. I could clearly feel his heart beating unusually fast. He cupped my face with both hands, his gaze burning with intensity as he stared at me. Serena, what am I to you now? I teased him on purpose. What do you think? A friend or a boyfriend? But after asking, he didn't wait for my answer. Instead, he buried his face in the crook of my neck and mumbled softly, never mind, don't answer. I don't want to know right now. My hand gently encircled his waist, pressing closer to his body. Don't you really want to know? Boyfriend. Alexander's car stopped at the entrance of a narrow alley. He pushed open the car door and slowly walked into the depths of the alley. There lived an old tailor, whose ancestors had specialized in crafting garments for nobility and high officials. Now advanced in years, she rarely took on work anymore. But Alexander had his ways of persuading the old master. The wedding dress Serena had ruined was delivered to this skilled artisan half a month ago. By today, it was nearly fully restored. As he walked, he recalled what his friend had said a few days ago. It was indeed true. Most girls dream of wearing a beautiful wedding dress and walking into the wedding hall with the one they love. He had been with Serena for so many years, yet he had never thought of preparing such a surprise for her. He never imagined that Serena had once fantasized about wearing a wedding dress with him and stepping into happiness together. These days, he had truly gone too far. The women who appeared by his side were nothing more than fleeting amusements. He had never been serious about any of them. Even Lily, who had caused Serena to leave decisively, had only given him 3 days of novelty. Not long after they started dating, he felt the novelty quickly fade, unable to let go of Serena in his heart. After so many years together, he had indeed felt exhaustion and occasional irritation. Yet some people are like colorless, odorless air, utterly essential yet unnoticed until lost, when their irreplaceable value suddenly becomes painfully clear. Since Serena left, he found little joy in anything. Even when out with friends, her shadow lingered in his thoughts. Especially when drunk, had Serena been there, she would have pretended to scold him with feigned annoyance. If she truly couldn't stop him, she would still stay up late to prepare a bowl of hot soup for him, letting him rest his head on her lap while she gently massaged his temples. Her fingers were soft and delicate, and those nagging words filled with both reproach and tenderness, once annoying, now felt unbearably nostalgic. Alexander thought to himself that when Serena returned this time, he would definitely propose to her. Deep down, he had long understood how much Serena yearned to marry him. Giving her the promise of marriage, she would surely feel reassured and forgive him, wouldn't she? The old tailor's craftsmanship truly lived up to its reputation. The wedding dress had been restored to nearly its original condition. As Alexander finished paying and was about to leave, his phone suddenly rang. For no apparent reason, he felt a surge of nervousness until he saw his friend Charlie's name light up on the screen, and his pounding heart gradually calmed down. Alexander, there's something I've been thinking about for a long time, and I've decided to tell you. What's up? Don't freak out when you hear this, it might not even be true, could just be rumors. Just spit it out already. What's going on? Alexander. Charlie suddenly felt sick to his stomach. How had things come to this? Of all people Serena could have been linked with, why did it have to be Daniel? Actually, 3 years ago, Alexander's company and Daniel's conglomerate had already been locked in fierce competition over a mega project. Both sides employed every tactic at their disposal, and the intensity of their rivalry reached white-hot levels. In the end, Daniel proved to be the better strategist and successfully secured the project, leaving Alexander to swallow the bitter taste of defeat, his first since starting his business. From that moment on, the already strained relationship between the two men became utterly irreconcilable. Don't get mad when I tell you this, it's just hearsay right now, no concrete evidence, but, well, someone spotted Serena in City B. Alexander's fingers tightened abruptly around his phone. Despite his efforts to remain composed, a faint trace of tension seeped into his voice. What about her being in City B? She seems to be with Daniel. Of course, it could just be a meal together, nothing more. I see. If there's nothing else, I'll hang up first. Alexander decisively ended the call. He carried a large paper box containing the custom wedding dress Serena had ordered earlier, walking heavily in the chilly mid-autumn wind. Alexander suddenly stopped in his tracks. A cold, self-deprecating smile slowly crept across his handsome face. Next, that delicate paper box in his hand was thrown into the trash without hesitation. 3 months after I left, Alexander once sent me a text message. The message went through smoothly, but there was no response whatsoever. The content of that text was, planning to sell the house. What should we do with the things you left here? Perhaps he had long forgotten that I left a note when I left, telling him to dispose of everything here as he pleased. Or perhaps he was just being deliberate, finding an excuse to send me a message. Alexander thought to himself that this counted as him extending an olive branch to Serena. If she had any sense, she'd take this opportunity to reconcile. Despite his usual temper, he was actually easy to placate with a little coaxing. But Serena never responded. Naturally, that apartment never got sold either. Serena's clothes and all her belongings remained exactly where she'd left them, as if she'd never moved out at all. Alexander would always come here late at night after social engagements. Then he'd lie in bed tossing and turning, unable to sleep until nearly dawn. On the 4th month after I left, it was yet another uneventful late night. When the clock's hour hand was about to strike 12, Alexander called me. Serena's family wasn't wealthy, but they lived comfortably without want, and her parents doted on her. Because she had grown into a stunning beauty since childhood, the elders were particularly strict with her upbringing. It wasn't until the summer of her graduation year that Serena finally moved in with him. He remembered that night vividly. When it was all over, she wept uncontrollably, repeating to him again and again, "Alexander, you mustn't bully me, and you're never allowed to bully me in the future. You must be good to me, you must marry me. Alexander, we'll be together forever, right?" Alexander had vowed earnestly at the time, "Absolutely, I will definitely marry you." Too much time had passed, so much that he could barely remember what expression she wore the last time they discussed breaking up. Did she nod with a forced smile, or did her eyes redden as tears fell? The phone rang persistently for quite a while, and just when he thought she wouldn't answer, the call unexpectedly connected. In that moment, all he truly felt was, "Serena, come back." Yet when the words came out, all he said was, "Serena, haven't you had enough of this?" His foolish and ridiculous remark was mercilessly interrupted by a man's soft chuckle. That laugh was like a bucket of ice water poured over his head. Alexander instantly felt as if he'd been frozen solid, his entire body stiffening into immobility. "Alexander, you shouldn't take too long to coax a girl, otherwise, someone else might easily slip in through the cracks." "Daniel?" Alexander's eyes were bloodshot as he spat out the name through gritted teeth. "It's me, Daniel." "Where's Serena?" "Put her on the phone." Flames seemed to blaze in Alexander's eyes, their terrifying redness intensifying. Clutching the phone tightly, his voice dropped low yet trembled uncontrollably, "Daniel, if you dare take advantage of her. She can't answer." Daniel lowered his head and gently kissed the girl beside him. She's still asleep, and she's mad at me right now. Daniel. Alexander's voice abruptly cut off. Daniel hung up directly and even turned off his phone for good measure. His kiss landed on Serena's slightly swollen lips. Baby, wake up. Truth be told, I'd imagined countless times what it would be like to meet Alexander again. Born into wealth, he exuded an innate air of aristocratic arrogance. Our breakup was amicable, so I thought if we ever bumped into each other on the street, he'd either pretend not to see me and walk right past, or we could exchange polite smiles and nods with some small talk. After all, my whole family lives in City A, and Alexander and I share many mutual friends. Moving in the same social circle, it's impossible to avoid crossing paths forever. But I never expected to see that always aloof, silver spoon-fed rich boy in such a disheveled and down-and-out state. That day, having slept beautifully and feeling particularly cheerful, I wore my newly purchased pale blue silk dress and took extra care with my makeup. She looked like a delicate flower in full bloom. Arm in arm with Daniel, I walked through the glass doors of the hotel lobby, chatting and laughing. Then I saw Alexander stepping out of the car. At that moment, I froze, my feet stopping involuntarily. Daniel's warm hand gently grasped mine. Alexander's shirt was slightly disheveled, the top button undone, his tie nowhere to be seen. His face was etched with exhaustion, brows tightly furrowed, eyes bloodshot. People were coming and going all around, and the nearby landscape waterfall flowed with a gentle murmuring sound. It should have been a harmonious scene, but at this moment, it felt eerily surreal, like a freeze frame from a movie. And I was no longer an uninvolved bystander, I had accidentally become one of the main characters in this awkward scenario. Perhaps Alexander's disheveled appearance was too shocking at that moment, because Daniel instinctively shielded me behind him. Yet, Alexander's expression remained strangely calm. Just like during the passionate days of our past, he called my name tenderly, Serena. I stood frozen in place, unable to move. The sound of flowing water remained crisp in my ears, but an inexplicable bitterness welled up in my heart. Perhaps it was for that Serena who silently wept in the dead of night, or perhaps for that Serena who gave 5 years only to be mocked for lacking charm. Serena, I've come to take you back to City A. Alexander never once glanced at Daniel, his gaze remained entirely fixed on my face, brimming with tenderness and longing. I couldn't even recall how long it had been since he last looked at me with such profound affection before our breakup. Alexander stopped about a meter away from me. Serena, let's get married as soon as we return. From now on, we'll live well together, all right? He spoke with such seriousness that I almost believed the Alexander who had recently vowed to make another girl happy was just a nightmare. But it was all too late. I looked at Alexander and said, "Do you think I'm some kind of pushover? You break up when you want, reconcile when you want, what gives you the right?" Serena, nothing happened between me and that girl. I cut ties with her within 2 days. Serena, I truly know I was wrong. I sincerely want to start over with you. Alexander's eyes grew redder, his voice trembling slightly. Alexander, I already have a boyfriend. I tightly grasped Daniel's hand, stepping from behind him to stand shoulder to shoulder by his side. The color drained instantly from Alexander's face. His gaze slowly traveled downward, finally settling on our clasped hands. On our fingers gleamed matching couples' rings. Just like the ones he and I used to wear. Serena, are you serious? I took a deep breath, glanced sideways at Daniel, then nodded resolutely, yes, completely serious. Alexander suddenly let out a low chuckle. Do you really think his feelings for you are genuine? Do you believe he can love you without any reservations? 3 years ago, he fought tooth and nail with me over a business deal. And now he's pursuing you, Serena, don't you think there might be ulterior motives behind this? Would he dare to openly admit that there isn't a single trace of competition with me in his pursuit of you? Serena, you're still so naive. Men are all the same, few are truly sincere. You've been with me for 5 years, we've been through so much together. Do you really think Daniel could care so little? Do you really think he can walk hand in hand with you till the very end, accompanying you for a lifetime? Aren't you afraid that being with him might just be another 5 years like ours, ending without conclusion? The cheerful sound of the fountain had unknowingly ceased. Alexander's voice also came to an abrupt halt. At first, there was complete silence in my ears. Then, there was a faint sound, as if something had quietly shattered. And after that sound, I felt an unprecedented sense of relief and liberation. See, even that last trace of sadness has dissipated. It's just so regrettable. Why must life always leave behind some regrets? Until today, I had never regretted loving Alexander. For better or worse, that was part of my life. But at this moment, I couldn't help feeling profound regret. Why couldn't I see it in 5 years? Alexander, deep down, never truly respected me. Daniel held me tightly in his arms, his eyes filled with heartache. My face was pale, but I still forced a smile and shook my head at him. I'm fine, Daniel. Sweetheart, go wait for me in the car first. Let me handle this. I want to be with you. I gripped his hand tightly. Alexander, you never deserved Serena's 5 years of devotion and love for you. Perhaps it was this very sentence that completely ignited Alexander's fury. He had never lost control like this before, speaking without restraint. What about you, Daniel? You're chasing after a woman who's been with me for 5 years, yet you dare to act so high and mighty in front of me? What do you even like about her? Do you truly love Serena, or are you just after her because she was Alexander's woman? Daniel threw a sudden punch at Alexander's face. Naturally, Alexander wasn't about to take it lying down. The two instantly grappled with each other, and soon both were sporting bruises on their faces and bodies. Hotel security rushed over and struggled to pull them apart. Yet the two men continued glaring at each other furiously, neither willing to back down an inch. Enough. Can you stop now? I shouted, both angry and frantic. Alexander's face darkened ominously. Serena, you saw it yourself, Daniel threw the first punch. I stared coldly at Alexander, walking up to him before delivering a stinging slap across his face. I must have been blind for 5 years to have ever liked you. Serena. Alexander's eyes were bloodshot. Don't ever appear before me again. The very sight of you disgusts me now. With that, I turned and walked toward Daniel. All pretenses of strength crumbled from Alexander's face instantly. His gaze toward me was filled with desolation and sorrow. Yet all I felt was revulsion. He hadn't looked this way when he had someone else break up with me. Daniel suddenly exclaimed dramatically, Serena, take a look at me, am I going to be disfigured? I quickly turned my head. The man before me had blood at the corner of his mouth, his eye sockets swollen and bruised all around, with traces of blood still on his chin, a truly frightening sight. I hurriedly pulled tissues from my bag and carefully helped him wipe it off. Ouch. Serena, gently, gently. Daniel deliberately pretended to grimace in pain. Serves you right. I muttered under my breath, yet my hands involuntarily softened their movements. Looks like you'll need stitches at the hospital. Then you'll have to come with me, I get dizzy at the sight of needles. He gazed at me with pitiful eyes. I couldn't help but roll my eyes, but in the end, I nodded. Alexander didn't say another word. The fading sunlight stretched his shadow, solitary and long, across the ground. At this moment, he clearly realized that Serena truly didn't love him anymore. Sylvia's casual question that day had now become a prophecy fulfilled. Serena would never return to him. He had always believed he could easily let go of these 6 years of emotions. He had always thought he was the one who maintained dominance in this relationship. He had always believed everything was under his control. But only at this moment did he suddenly understand. The one who truly couldn't let go was him, Alexander. I watched Alexander turn and walk slowly toward the car, his lonely figure gradually disappearing from view. The evening sun had unknowingly been completely swallowed by the horizon. Alexander's car drove farther and farther away, eventually vanishing at the end of the road. On the night Daniel proposed, he drank so much, held me tightly, and said so many things. Yet what stood out most in my memory were perhaps the simplest two sentences. Serena, we won't have just 5 years. Serena, we have a lifetime. In the moment when anyone makes a vow, they undoubtedly mean it with all their heart. Yet when vows were broken later, I thought to myself, who really takes these promises seriously anyway? But I choose to believe in Daniel. Or perhaps more accurately, I choose to believe in myself, that I deserve genuine love, and that sincerity will eventually be reciprocated. Days flowed forward like a murmuring stream, and my life with Daniel brimmed with warmth and sweetness. He consistently honored his promises through actions. By his side, I truly felt cherished and valued. All those past wounds gradually healed within this comforting embrace. As for Alexander, I heard he's been living alone in the same apartment we used to share,